aperture zones. Okay, very well. So you're all ready to start? Okay, now I'm going to start to explain to you all these zones colored in green, purple, and red, what they are. Well, these are the lymph collection zones. That's where the lymph nodes are concentrated, and that's where we will need to apply pressure to drain out these areas or these zones. Remember that before any lymphatic drainage session, whatever the step you're going to do, whether you want to work on the abdomen, the arms, or on the legs, you will need to do this drainage of the lymph. As you can see from the picture, I have drawn in purple above the clavicle, the terminus. Then on the neck, you can see profundus. And then after we have another zone which is behind the head, which is occiput. And then we have other zones that I will explain in brief, and how to drain out these zones before you start your lymphatic drainage. For all these zones, we're going to keep the original Latin name, so get used to it. From top to bottom, you see we have drawn in green the temporalis, which is on the temporal bone. As you move down in front of the ear, before the carotidi, we have the parotis. And then on the angle of the cheekbone, we have the angulus zone. And as I said before, we have underneath the ear, on the neck, the profundus. Then above the clavicle, we have the terminus. Behind the head, we have the occiput. And finally, we have the trapezium, which is a lymphatic station that we will drain out when we will do neck treatment and the person will be facing down. A fundamental condition before you start your lymphatic drainage is that you need to be very, very relaxed, because lymphatic drainage is a very slow technique, because it has to facilitate the flow of lymph, which is very, very slow. And as a consequence, if you do lymphatic drainage too fast, maybe because you're agitated at that point in time, you will notice that you will not achieve your result. Because the concept of time for this video course that you're about to follow is fundamental, I was asking myself, well, how am I going to convey to you the concept of time in the right rhythm, even when I'm not there to see how you're actually doing it? So I found several systems. One of them is, if you're home, the metronome, and you have to set this at 40 beats per minute so that this will give you the right speed of the movement of what you're going to do. But then I asked myself, maybe not everyone has a metronome at home. So then I decided to record this beat that I have enclosed herein, so that for the first lymphatic drainage that you're going to do, you will have this recording that you can use as background. For the technical experts of you, I also discovered that iPhone has several free applications, so you need to set it to 40 beats per minute. Okay, so now that I'm sure that you will do the right movement because of the videos that you're going to watch with this right rhythm, we can start. And we will start to do this stimulation, these pumping movements on the terminus, in the profundus zone, and on the occiput zone. Okay, let's start. First pumping movement, second, third, fourth, and fifth pumping movement. You see, there are 5 of them. I'll show that from a top view. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if we do this emptying, this drainage of the terminus, the circulating lymph in this zone will be reabsorbed at the venous system. And this is where the internal jugular vein joins the subclavia artery. So your aim is to do these pumping movements so that you can facilitate the circulation of the lymph and empty or drain out this very important zone so that you can leave space to the lymph that we're going to supply to the same zone. Very well. Now that you've done 5 pumping movements on the terminus, then we have to move the lymph on the side of the neck, under the ear, which is called profundus. So we will do these pumping movements, but as you will see, they're not simple pressure that you're applying like on the terminus, but they're actual circular movements that you will do using the tips of your fingers. But now I'll show you the picture so everything will be much clearer. You see, I place my hands underneath the ears, and with the tips of my fingers, I do these circular movements so that I transport the lymph from the top towards the terminus. And here we do 5 pumping movements. This is a different angle, so you see how I am moving my wrists so that my fingers do these half circles. Once you've completed the terminus zone with 5 pumping movements, and we did the profundus, now we have to do another 5 on the occiput, so on the occipital zone, where it's necessary to empty these lymph nodes so as to alleviate the flow of lymph. So we place our hands on the occipital zone and we do these pumping movements, 5 of them. First, you have to pull upwards and then you can pull forwards. This is the top view. So you see I'm slightly pulling upwards and then I push gently forward. Remember, all these pumping movements must be done with a very light pressure. So let's take stock of the situation. First, we emptied the terminus and we did 5 pumping movements. Then we did 5 pumping movements, which are small circular movements on the profundus zone in mid-neck. Then we emptied the profundus on the occiput. And now we have to work on the top part of the head. So far we were working on the neck. Now we have to stimulate first the angulus zone. We will do 5 pumping movements, which again are small circular movements. Then we will do 5 circular movements on the parotis in front of the ears. And then we will work on the temporalis zone, again 5 times. Okay, very well. So now we identify the angulus and then we start to do these 5 circular movements. This is the top view. Here you can see the movement. I'm doing this using my fingers only, so you don't have to place the palm of your hand. After you've done these 5 movements, you will do another 5 on the parotis zone, which is in front of the ears. So 1, 2, 3. You see how slowly I'm going? 4, and finally the 5. Finally, we have the temporalis, and here again we need to do 5 circular movements. We're in the temporal zone, so we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I'll show you the top view. You see, this is a circular movement. Summary. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a brief summary. So as we start, we need to do 5 circular movements on the terminus, then 5 on the profundus, 5 on the occiput, and then we start over again with the terminus, profundus, and occiput, then again terminus, profundus, occiput, again 5 circular movements. Once you've completed that, then you have to do 5 circular movements on the angulus, 5 on the parotis, and 5 on the temporalis, and then you will repeat that again. 5 on the angulus, parotis, and temporalis, and then again another 5 on each one of them. After that, we will go back to the terminus. We will do another 5 circular movements on that, on the profundus, and 5 on the occiput, and we will complete with the last 5 on the terminus. But don't worry, in the written report that I've given you, I've outlined each and every step and all the times that you have to do them. So you will have the full sequence. You see, I am stimulating the terminus zone, 5 pumping movements, always at slow rhythm, as according to the musical file that I gave you. Then we work on the profundus 5 times. Then we identify the occiput and we do 5 circular movements. Once you've completed these 15 circular movements overall, we will repeat it one more time and another time again for a total of 3 times. So I'll repeat it. I start with 5 pumping movements on the terminus. Then I do 5 on the profundus. Five on the occiput.
Terminus per 5 volte.
Then we do it 5 times on the terminus.
Profundus per 5 volte.
5 times on the profundus.
E andremo a fare l'occiput per altri 5.
And then we work on the occiput for another 5 circular movements.
Adesso invece dobbiamo stimolare la zona dell'angolo.
Now we have to stimulate the angulus, parotis, and temporalis zones. We will do 5 on the angulus, 5 on the parotis, and 5 on the temporalis, and this will repeat it 3 times.
Iniziamo con l'angulus.
Let's start with the angulus. So we do 5 circular movements.
Quell'angolo è un angolo di
That
120
angle is a 120-degree angle of the jaw, which is called goni. Now, I just wanted to tell you that.
Davanti alle orecchie abbiamo la zona
In front of the ears, we have the parotis zone.
Vedi, facciamo questi passaggi, dopodiché
You see?
il temporalis, sempre
Then we work on the temporalis, always very slowly and gentle and sweet. It has to be superficial because the lymph is just underneath the skin, so you don't need to apply too much pressure.
ripetiamo adesso per la seconda volta.
Now I'm going to repeat for the second time. Angulus, 5 circular movements.
Parotis, altri
Parotis,
5 passaggi.
another 5 circular movements.
E temporalis, altri
And
5
temporalis, another 5 movements.
Terza ed ultima volta,
Third and last
angulus,
time we do 5 on the angulus.
faremo gli ultimi 5 passaggi sul parotis.
Last 5 on the parotis.
E faremo gli ultimi 5 passaggi
And then
sulla zona
we do the last 5 movements on the temporalis zone.
Una volta terminati anche questi
Once
passaggi,
you've completed these steps, then you will do the last steps on the terminus, profundus, and occiput.
quindi i nostri 5 pompaggi sul terminus,
So the 5 circular movements on the terminus,
altri 5 sulla zona
other 5 on the profundus zone,
5 sulla zona
5 on the occiput zone,
Per concludere il tutto faremo
In conclusion,
5
we will do the last 5 pumping movements on the terminus only. Conclusion.
Allora, adesso con le aperture
Okay, now we've completed our work with the apertures. These are fundamental for all the steps that we'll have to do on the body. We will solve many problems, like all the edemas that form on the body, all those body parts that are swollen with fluid. We can improve cellulitis, we can improve joint parts that are inflamed and where we cannot work with any other technique, for all those people who are intoxicated with drugs, for people who suffer from insomnia, which is excellent before surgery or even after surgery for the healing of the tissues. It's perfect for people who have vein deficiency, for cuperose, for rosacea. Even just as a relaxing massage, believe me, the results that you can achieve after lymphatic drainage are long-lasting. So as you can see, having this technique, knowing this technique is very, very important, and the results are really, really enormous. And it's a very pleasant technique, so it's not a painful massage. And so with this, I have concluded. We have looked at the apertures, and now we can move on to the next videos where we will enter into the details of how the arms, the back, and the legs, through lymphatic drainage, you can improve the lymphatic flow.